Well, this summer we have been taking a good portion of the summer looking at different psalms that have really nourished and cared for our souls as the Lord has spoken to us through them. And the three that I've chosen, selected over the past 2 weeks and then here today have a similar theme. And so some of you might have been able to see that, and the connection being the soul. Psalm 27 was the singular soul, the soul that was undivided, the inner man not being split over many things, but focused on one. The one thing, verse 4, that I have asked of the Lord, and that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. So the singular soul. And last week we looked at Psalm 63 and talked about the satisfied soul. The satisfied soul, verses 3 and 5 say, "Your steadfast love is better than life, so my soul will be satisfied." And this morning is Psalm 131, the still soul. Still. Peaceful, calm, tranquil, and quiet. We'll find this as we descend into it. But really the theme that pulls together these three psalms that we've looked at is that the soul that is satisfied in the Lord alone, singularly, is the still soul. So that is what we're seeing, and we know that the soul can be unsettled about many things, right? Think about the things that have unsettled your soul this week or this morning. Maybe your soul has been busied by many things. Maybe there's a noise inside you that is loud, a raucous sound of thoughts and conflicted thoughts and desires and expectations and frustrated expectations, agitated over many things. Well, it is common for man to have the inner man be anything but calm. And that's what we're after today. But you just even look around us in the world and you hear the rising mental health crisis. And you hear about that in the news, you hear about that in schools, you hear about that in churches, and in pretty much every other place. And so this mental health crisis, I'm not here to diagnose all that where it's come from or what it exactly is or what we should think about it, but this gives a pretty good snapshot of what's happening on the inside of individuals, in the soul. At least even from the world's perspective. It says, if you just do a brief search and just looking around at what is said or what you have heard, 1 in 8 people worldwide live with a mental disorder. That's 1 billion people. Depression affects over 264 million people, and it's the leading cause of disability. Anxiety disorders are the most common globally, 284 million people. Suicide rates, especially for ages 10 to 24, have increased 56% in the U.S. over the past 12 years. And sadly, girls and boys between ages 10 and 14, it has doubled those numbers in the United States. Over half of the mentally ill receive no treatment where they're at and have no access. And according to Community Impact here in Montgomery, emergency mental health interventions have surged. There's a number of reported walk-ins, health detentions, and forced medication orders that have increased from 341 in 2016 to 1,359 in just a few years later, 2021. It's 300% up. Well, calls into the crisis intervention team rose from 1,252 calls in 2017 to 4,765 calls in 2021. And just midway through 2022, they were already on pace for some 9,600 calls into that crisis intervention team. Now, what do we make of this? How do we think about this rightly as believers? Are souls sick? Yes. Are we in need of help? Yes. But I think it's far worse than these numbers. And these numbers shock us and they grieve us, and we want to help and do what we can. But when we let the Lord assess what the human problem is in the world, it is much more than the sickness or health of a person inside, but it is actually a spiritual death. A spiritual death which can manifest itself in a lot of different ways, show up in a lot of different ways, anxiety and depression and other things, suicide being evidences of that. But with the problem being so much greater in God's eyes than what we even see, which already seems insurmountable, it leaves room for the solution to be that much greater as well. So we don't try to give excuses or downplay what is wrong and what is going on in our souls and in our society. What we do is we lean into it. And we ask questions, and we let God give answers. And we find that the solution of hope in Christ, in passages like ours this morning, speak straight to the problem, shot straight to the heart. So according to the Bible, you look at the soul as the immaterial part of man, that which you can't see, get hands on, but you see its effects in the body and the emotions, the countenance, everything that's animating the physical body. God made the first man, Adam, from the ground. Clay sculpture, right? Draws up dirt and puts together what man is like physically, but he's not alive, just having a physical form. Adam was alive when God breathed his spirit into him. There's two components of every person, the physical and the immaterial parts of us. So the soul or spirit in the Bible, it seems that they're interchangeable. They're referring to things that have to do with what's inside us. Other words that the Bible uses are heart and mind and those things that refer to the inner man, not the outer man. But the outer man, we're made aware that, not just from God's word, but from our own very lives, that we're on a trajectory not toward greater health, but actually decline. So physically, we're in decline. And we see that once our bodies come to an end, our souls continue. Our souls continue. And those who have looked to Christ for resurrection hope will receive glorified bodies that cannot perish and cannot be stricken by anything that we all experience now in this fallen world. So while we live on the earth now, we have to ask pointed questions. Not about what we see around us in the world, but about what we have right here. How have you cared for your soul? What condition is it in? Is it a wreck? Has it been totaled? Do you just not want to talk about it? Are you happy till that everybody in on the surface level? Or are you humble enough to invite people in and to let people in on what is wrong, what is needed, where is weakness, and even spiritual death, so that you can bring to your soul what is the best thing for it? We're going to Christ this morning. And to do so, we're going to go to Psalm 131, and you'll see how we are going to get the best thing for our souls in Him. Psalm 131, turn there with me if you haven't already. I want you to see it and read it. I'll give 3 lessons to learn about how to still the soul before God. A still soul, one of peace. Like a good shepherd, I pray the Lord will come alongside of us as we take in His word and as He leads us by still waters. I hope that we'll drink and we'll find that He is good. Look down at the opening words there of this psalm, a song of ascents of David. This is a song that was recited and sung by the people of God some 3 times out of the year when they had their annual festivals. So these festivals would be where they would gather together no matter where they lived, Galilee, up further north, or in some other central region or southern. In Judah, they would gather in Jerusalem for the festivals around the temple and all the goings on there. So these would be psalms that would be sung then as they approached the Lord. It's a psalm of David. Let's read It says, "O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forevermore." Let's get that first lesson to learn about how to still the soul, and it has to do with humility on this next slide. The humility of the soul. It's wonderful learning about humility from someone who's at the top. Talk to the king about humility. Like, what do you know, buddy? You've got everything that you... Yeah, this is possibly what David's concern is. That the people that he leads, as he is king of Israel, might view him as someone who's lifted himself up or views himself as above them. But you see here that David gives 3 denials, really to that end. That he is not someone who views himself as being worthy, above, or greater than. He gives 3 denials. Not. You see those words repeated. "O Lord, my heart is not lifted up." So he's looking inside himself, talking to the Lord, and he's admitting, my heart has not been lifted up. This is an expression for the concept of pride. The prideful person lifts up his heart, speaks up his heart, thinks up his heart, dreams up his heart to being bigger, inflated, beyond where it belongs. But he was not doing this. When we talk about pride, really think that there is an epidemic of pride today. Think about it. This widespread spiritual disease, it is one of self-worship. Pride, which is in the Bible the chiefest vice, one from all other sins flowing from it, has become the world's choicest virtue. Isn't it? This summer, pride. Are you with or against? It's not enough to just say that there are excuses for it, but it should be celebrated. Pride should be celebrated. But pride, according to the Bible, is a form of worship that enthrones self in place of God. It pushes God off the throne to say, I will be blessed and only sovereign. People have come to think in a prideful way, with hearts lifted up, that from them, through them, and to them are all things. Some of you are like, yeah, my kids. So like, I know someone like that. The prideful heart has a song, and its words go something like this: "Not to you, God, not to you, but to my name give glory." The prideful heart echoes Lucifer's words, which we have recorded, but came before Adam and Eve even. "I will ascend to heaven. Above the stars of God, I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." Isaiah 14:13 and 14. This is the narrative of a prideful heart. This is the ambition. It is to go higher. It is to step on others to be able to get there and to ascend and to dethrone God. Make yourself like the Most High. That's why Puritan Thomas Watson can say, pride seeks to undo God. You go, oh, pride, it's everybody has it. It's not that big of a deal. No. At its very DNA, tiniest manifestation of pride, what it's after is undoing God and doing you up like you are Him. We have to watch out for pride. R.C. Sproul called it cosmic treason. You aren't just setting yourself up against somebody else's wishes. You're actually setting yourself up against God Himself, committing treason in the highest courts, in the place where the punishment is greatest. I totally agree with that phrase, that definition. But flip it around. Consider humility. Humility is honesty. Period. Humility is honesty. Be honest. Who is responsible for your life? God. Who gave you breath today? God. Who do you owe your entire life to? God. Who is worthy? Who has no wicked way in him? Who is lifted up above all others? Who is holy, holy, holy? Who has made all things? Who is the one that in all things that are made reflect back his glory to him because of his greatness and his splendor? Humility is just being honest. Pride is being delusional. That's why Satan is known as the tempter, the deceiver. He's deceiving you so that you can think prideful thoughts. He's trying to undo God. So the more we give room to pride inside, the more we're being duped and delusional and thinking thoughts that are not true, saying things like, I am worthy, I am better, I deserve more. And we're starting to coach ourselves in Satan's school, and we don't even realize the curriculum we've been given. But it is one that is a direct offense to God, and we are the dumb ones. Humility is honesty. We are not God. We have sin that separates us from God, and it also creates a whole host of problems in the church. We are helpless without God. True, true, true. Keep just tracing the truth. State the truth. Receive the truth over and over. That's the humble person. They admit it, and they live consistent with it. And they don't try to change it or twist it or have a secret agenda or use it for their own gain. The next phrase he says is, my eyes are not raised too high. My eyes are not raised too high. Eyes that look up with ambition also look down with arrogance. That's what we're seeing here. If you have an ambition that is a selfish one, that is like this prideful drive, if you are king, if you are elevated, if you're in a position or you desire some kind of status or position or recognition or honor, what you're going to do is be one of the most arrogant people toward others. You'll, with your eyes, look down on others. You know what you'll do with your eyes if pride is driving? If self is driving? If you have been given to self-esteem, which is a higher thinking of self, what you're going to do is you're going to see other people as backs that you can step on so you can get higher. You're going to look at other people's shortcomings and you're going to rejoice. You're going to see somebody else who failed a little bit more than you and you're going to feel vindicated. You're going to look at somebody else with a critical spirit, trying to find something in them so it makes you feel better about yourself. So the arrogant person is a very judgmental, very critical person. My eyes are not raised too high. Even if you're a king, you don't get to use your eyes this way, looking to things that are not yours, beyond what is yours. Psalm 18:27 says, "For you save a humble people, but the haughty eyes," that is those prideful eyes, "you bring down." Pride does come before the fall. Eyes that are looking for advancement of self will come to an end. And it will not be what you thought. You have been duped. Proverbs 6:16 and 17 is that familiar passage in the middle of Proverbs or beginning of Proverbs where it says, 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Top of the list, haughty eyes. H-A-U-G-H-T-Y, if you're wondering. I'm talking about haughty in some other way. Haughty eyes. Those eyes that David's saying he did not have. Eyes that are longing for, looking for other people to be undercut, short-souled, put down so that we could be lifted up. Oh. Sometimes it feels so good to see another fall because it wasn't us. And pride is the one just stroking that ego, pushing you on in your agenda so you can be at the top. And some of you are familiar with most of you are probably familiar with the ancient Greek myth of Narcissus. The myth of Narcissus, as recounted by Ovid in his book Metamorphosis, many, many years ago, tells of a young hunter known for his beauty. Very beautiful man. I don't use the word beautiful anymore for men, but he rejected the advances of others, which was natural. He had others approach him, but he rejected them, including the nymph Echo. Echo was heartbroken. She called out to him. Narcissus probably said, "Who goes there?" And Echo probably said, "Who goes there?" And it wasn't a very profitable conversation. I was kidding. I don't know. I didn't read the book. But so you have Echo reaching out for Narcissus, attracted to him, longing for him. He rejects her. So she pines away with only her voice remaining. Narcissus was punished for his vanity, being made to fall in love with only the reflection in a pool of water. And as he looked into the water, he gazed upon an image that he would rather have than any other, and it was himself. He didn't realize that it was him at first. He thought it was a marble image, one shaped of the gods, and he was drawn to it, so much drawn to it, so captivated by it, that he couldn't take his eyes off of it, and he stayed there at that pool when he realized he was unable to leave. And he could not have the object of his desire. Narcissus wasted away and was transformed into the gold and white flower we know today as Narcissus. We kind of go, okay, well, that's nice for Greeks 2,000 years ago. Do we do this? Do we have our own pools of water? We call them mirrors today. What do gyms have? All the weights? They have more mirrors than weights, don't they? You're looking for gains. You want to see flex. You want to see results. I need to see something that I'm actually, up to what the standard is. I want to be noticed. In fact, I want to notice myself. Sometimes we walk by the mirror and we kind of catch ourselves like, oh, the lighting looked good right there. Or whatever. And we're just prone to fall in love with our own image. And whatever we hate about our own image, we try to rearrange or change, compare. And maybe it's not the mirror so much for you, but maybe it's your glassy screen. There's the pool at which you look into. You see images of yourself that you've taken, right? You've got all the selfies. You see images of other people, airbrushed images, perfection, and you're just swiping and looking, and your heart is longing and kind of like looking for something. You're wanting to be noticed, but not too much and in the wrong way. You want good things to be said of you and not the bad. You see other people who have better than you, more than you, and you become discontent. You become jealous. You covet. And you long and long and long that you would have that image that essentially you're in love with. Oh, this self kind of love, this self kind of preoccupation, this self kind of recognition. You know the people, the types. They're not good with others. They're so into themselves. The gospel draws us to be oriented away from love of self and into the things that are truly beautiful. And it's not in us, but it is in God. The third thing he says is, I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. What does this teach us about humility? Well, the Hebrew word occupy or involve, I do not involve myself or occupy myself, is really the word for walk. And so it is the manner in life, the way in which you conduct your life. I do not conduct my life or walk according to these things that are too great and too marvelous for me. This kind of ambition, which he has rejected, goes beyond what God has for you. It goes beyond what God has for you. It is now, again, soccer season for us. Our daughter is playing again, and it reminds me of so many different sideline memories. And now I'm the parent, not the player. And I remember one of the things that my family would repeat from one of those fans that we all kind of heard. And it was this dad, I don't remember who he was exactly, in high school, where every time a kid would take a shot from too far away, and it would be a waste to turn over, he would yell out, "Know your range." Okay, maybe he yelled at me a few times. And what's happening? You get in the frenzy of a game, you're a little disoriented, you're desperate, you don't know how much time you have left, you're getting hit from left, right, you're falling over, tripping, getting up, passing by a guy, and you're thinking, the goal's not far from me. I need to shoot. And you know what? If I shot from 40 yards out and I made it, people would be like, "That was a bomb." Like they would just exalt you. I mean, you wanted to have the cannon. But when you would take that shot from well beyond your range, you were not exalted. You were shamed. It was not a positive thing, and it affected other people. But that's really us in life, too. We get kind of bumped around, frenzied, trying to go toward the goal in life. We overestimate our abilities, and we have that voice almost kind of calling out, like voice of reason. Hey, know your range. Why did you seek for things that were so far beyond you? Good question. Why do we? There are things that are too great. Not my lot in life. Not the things that God has given to me as gifts and that he's told me to steward well and to receive as gifts from him. But I long for beyond. Past that. And in fact, the words great and marvelous are the words that are most commonly used for God's works. The things that God does. They are great. They are marvelous. Too marvelous for any of us. But for him to occupy himself with things that are too great and too marvelous would be meddling in an area that is not yours. You don't belong there. These are things that are God's, not man's. These are things that are out of your control. They're totally in God's control. We long for and desire for a relationship or marriage. And I watch singles, teens and 20s long so much, and they want so badly to know who their forever someone is, and they almost occupy themselves with things that are beyond their knowledge. You don't know if it's her or if it's him. You don't know if it's now or if it's later or if it's another. Some struggling with infertility. Will God ever allow us to have this miracle of life? Will we be ever able to partake of this or to build a family? Or for some, maybe you've already got the family and you want your kids to be saved. A good desire. But you know you cannot cause your kids to be saved. These are things that are too great and too marvelous for you. And you just take it anywhere else in life where ambition drives you to long for things in such a way that you start to tell God, I'm going to do this. I have a thought. Have you considered my counsel on my life in that area? And we need to understand what we're doing in those times, not what David has done. In fact, David became king. Do you know why? Was he the firstborn of the sons in Jesse's household? No. He was forgotten. Where was he? With the sheep outside. Samuel came to his house. God had told him there's a king in this house. He goes there, lines up all the boys. Oh, that was loud. Strapping young men, boom, 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 boom. Here, let's just go down. It's probably the firstborn. No, not, okay, not the second, no, you keep going, you get to the end, you go, Samuel goes, do you have anybody else? Well, yeah, there's David, but he's out with the sheep. He's not going to be king of Israel. No, bring him in here. Yep, that's the one. David knew from day one he didn't deserve that place of honor. And he continued, not perfectly, but continued to help his own heart and to admit that he knew that it was God's timing if he was going to be Saul's armor bearer and not get speared by the guy before him because he was a cuckoo, or if he was going to be run out of his own kingdom, if he knew that, okay, well, God told me I'm going to be king, but the guy before me is not gone yet. Here's humility, humility, humility. He didn't long for the kingship in a way that wasn't his, wasn't meant for him. And this is what we can do so easily. I love this verse on the next slide, Deuteronomy 29:29. This helps us understand in biblical categories things that are beyond us. What does it say? Moses says this after giving them the law, and they have lots of questions, so the people are asking, and his statement here is so helpful and guiding for us. He says, the secret things belong to the Lord our God, one category. But the things that are revealed belong to us and to our children, that we may do all the words of this law. So there are the things of God's sovereign will that we don't know. And we have to just trust that it's better for God to know those things. That's his jurisdiction. He will take care of those things in his time and in his way. And it may be very different than how we anticipated or wanted it. But we have to grow in trusting him about the secret things. Things that are not meant for us to know until their time, until he sees fit to let us know. But, he has given you things to be occupied with. He says, walk in this. Here is what you need to know, and not just you, but take it to your kids and let your kids know. And not just that, so where they know, but do and walk and live in this law of God, in this word of God. These are the revealed things. Well, I want to be married. Well, learn what it means to be a godly man. I want a job that pays well, so I have security. Well, understand that you're not meant to be a people pleaser, doing work for eye service, but for the Lord. But we don't like this. This isn't enough to us. It's the sufficient word, but it's insufficient to us. And so we spend so much time at night or in conversations with the gals or at some spot where we're just dreaming, dialoguing, talking, and we're just longing beyond what God has given us. We need to come back to reality. I love Christopher Ashe in his commentary. He says, the logic is that when people reach up for things too great and marvelous, things beyond their understanding and power, the result is always anxiety. As they realize that everything depends on their understanding and power, and they inevitably become aware of their inadequacy. So here's what happens. When you reach beyond and don't know your range and you meddle in the things of God, you start playing God and you quickly realize you are not him. And you can't do it. And it's too heavy. And the burden's too sizable. And you don't know what you did to get there. And you're like, why am I carrying all of this? But to cast all your anxieties on the Lord, knowing that he cares for you. And he is meant to carry those things. That's where anxiety goes away. Where there is humility. Where there is humility, anxiety does not come up. It does not rule. It is not the main thing. We need to learn to be content with the lot that which God has marked out to us and called us to. Humility, and now the hush. Verse 2 is the second lesson learned, to calm the soul, quiet the soul, and this will go faster as we go. Verses 2 and 3 are more outworkings of this humility. He says, but I have calmed and quieted my soul. But I have. So he says, I have not done these things. I've not elevated my heart too much. I've not had haughty eyes and saw things and dreamt of things that are beyond me, what you have given to me. I've not engaged in and lived in my head or in my life the things that are too marvelous for me, too great for me. But I have done this. I've calmed and I've quieted my soul. This is good. Did you know that you could do this? I wonder if some of us didn't realize that we can do this. Really? Well, you don't even know the things that the noise in my head, the howling there, it's deafening. I have to put the headphones on just to drown out what's between the headphones. I can't. We say these things that are not true. And you see verses like this, and it talks back with truth to what is false. David says, I have calmed and quieted my soul. The inner man can be, and not just can be, but should be calmed. Well, to be calmed means to make level or smooth. I have this picture in my head of my mom making banana bread. She did it all the time, and I loved it. And she would take the measuring cup with the flour, and she would take the butter knife and go chop, 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 kind of like level off. I always thought it was so cool. And so just this leveling off of that, which is, it could be too much, could be not enough, it's just up, down, up, down. That's this calming and quieting is a making level of something that's uneven. Something that's uneven, something that's rocky or bumpy, something you're going to trip over, fall over, level it. Flatten it out. My life is such a mess. It's so loud. That's possibly because you have been building something with busyness in your heart that needs to be bulldozed and just brought to a place where you have come before God and quieted your heart in His presence, allowing Him to build what He wants, rather than your ambitions, rather than your kingdom, rather than your selfish ambitions. So to calm the crazy inside, what we need to do is do what David did. Like a weaned child with its mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. This is a beautiful picture. It's one of those times where you have that picture of the mom. This was me this week when I was in a coffee shop studying, and there's the mom talking with her buds and about life and probably motherhood and all of that. Very cute. But that baby sitting in the stroller in the car seat was not having it. I don't know why, but everybody knew that baby was not having it in that moment. I mean, top of its line. It must have had 5 lungs. I mean, it was so loud. It's like, wow, that is a loud baby. Noise cancel, and you can still hear it. And you're like, wow, okay, that's a lot going on. I'm looking over my shoulder and going like, she'll take care of it, I'm sure. Yeah, she's going through her diaper bag. That's this duffel bag, and she's trying to find the right things. And I knew, but you know what? As soon as Mama got that baby to her, it was calm. That baby was taken care of. Order was restored. The calm came when the child was near. That's the lesson David's saying to learn here. Do you do this with your bumpy life? Do you bring it into God's presence and say, Lord, calm me down. Quiet my soul. It's uneasy about a lot of things. I'm wanting, but I'm not getting, and this is a struggle. This is hard, and I want it to change. Why won't you? Where is what about your? And to come before Him and to know that nearness to Him is our good. The weaned child with its mother. Nothing sweeter or happier than that milk-drunk baby just there, just nestled and held in the warmth of the mother's embrace. That place of being able to receive the nourishment from God, the things that He has revealed to us that is our lot in life and what God has gifted and given to us, is all that we need for a calm soul. And yet we preoccupy our things with things that are too grown up. Be like the child again. Don't get ahead of yourself, thinking too wise about your plans. Or thinking about change and going, I hate change, I need to get away from this, I need to get it back to normal, I'm a creature of habit, I don't like this, whatever. We have these grown-up thoughts. But we need to have faith like a child that is, everything is good. When you're in mom's arms, fed well, growing up, knowing that there is that relationship there and there is that provision from mom. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2 says, like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk, that by it you may grow up into salvation. This is what David's soul was going through, was a growing up, but coming to the Lord and being taken care of. We need to do the same. Let God be God. Humble ourselves before his mighty hand. Cast down any idols or things that we have put up as rivals to him. And commit our way to him. Trust him. He will act. Well, finally, there is the hope of the soul. The third lesson learned is in verse 3. You see it there. O Israel, hope in the Lord. And he says, from this time forth and forevermore. This is a big command. This is a big thing to do forever, to hope in him. But I will say this. If you have humbled yourself before God, and you've found that hush of your soul in his presence near to him, guess what? You will have hope. You'll be someone who is hoping, trusting, depending. Hope is that future tense of faith. You're trusting in God for the things that he will do for you. You're holding on to his promises. God, I'm afraid to go to that place. I'm afraid to start driving. I'm afraid of what this new chapter will hold. I'm afraid of what it would mean if I lost this. I'm afraid of what I will do now. But the promises of God are guarding you and guiding you forward. That's someone who's hoping well. Hope is a leaning on God and his word to get you through the things that are ahead. And we can find hope in other things too. Depend on those things. Tell us those things. And look to those things. And they fall. And they buckle under the pressure. But you know what doesn't buckle under the pressure? Just let God speak. Listen to his voice. Hear his call. Know his word. Put your hope in God, trusting in him with all your heart. When you look to the New Testament, you find a number of different people who have been waiting for redemption for Israel. Simeon, you have Anna, and others. Well, shout out to Anna here, Luke 2:36. She was a prophetess, daughter of Phanuel, the tribe of Asher. She was advanced in years, having lived with her husband 7 years from marriage, and then a widow. He passed away until she was 84. But what did she do with her years apart from a husband, feeling somewhat vulnerable as a widow, not knowing what to make of her life in that vulnerable place? What she did is she stored up and treasured up all the promises of God, and she looked forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. It says in verse 38, she came up in the very hour that Jesus was brought as a baby to the temple. She came to give thanks and to speak of him to all who were waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem, and her hope had become realized. So, how are you hoping? What are you hoping will come of your life? What are you hoping will change? What is your hope in? If you could be able to delineate between the things that are the false hopes and the things that Satan would love for you to depend on and the things that are true and the truth and the goodness of God's word, you're on a good path forward into whatever lies ahead. That's why this is a song of ascents. That's why the people would say this. That's why they, year after year, festival after festival, would say words like this, because they still hadn't had the forever king yet come. And they looked forward to the promises of God that it would come soon. I found a really helpful quote by David Powlison on the next slide that I want to share with you and leave you with as well. He says, you stop pursuing impossibilities when you start pursuing certainties. This is so true. David Powlison writes from a biblical counseling point of view. And from this psalm, he was talking about this. I think that's what we're apt to do. We're apt to kind of latch on to things that we don't know, but we're trying to take control of, or that we would like, or that we'd like to see happen, but we have no certainty about whether or not they're going to happen, or if we can make them happen. But we need to stop pursuing those things, and we need to pursue the things that are certain. The things that are certain can be found in God's word. It's firm, it's fixed, it's forever. In the heavens, not a tiny piece of any of its words will dissolve or pass away. The heavens and the earth, as we know them, will dissolve first. So, bank on it. Trust in him. There is certainty in his word. When you feel uncertain with your life, or your future, or your family, or your finances. So preoccupy your mind with the things that are certain, not the uncertainties, the worries, the what-ifs, the fears, the intrusive thoughts, the daydreaming, the plans of man, and vengeance, unforgiveness, any total amount of things that could be there. Humility before God produces hope in God. Well, as you know, David had a son. Hundreds of years later, this psalm is actually truer of his son than it was of him. He was king. 2, he had enemies. 2, people looked to him. 2, he was fully God and fully man too. Yet he didn't consider equality with God a thing to be grasped. He humbled himself as a man. When his life drew to a close, this king, son of David, he had perfect composure. Just think about the things that he said and did when his life was at the craziest point, the most up and down circumstances in his life, and he knew where he was headed. He had a peace that surpassed all understanding. He was the Prince of Peace. His hour had come to depart from the world, to be rejected and despised by men, to bear the wrath of his Father for our sin. Every last temptation, every last-ditch effort Satan could do, did do, and he was pressed, torn, and troubled, and he said to his sleepy disciples that night of his capture, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death." Wow, Jesus was depressed. His soul was under pressure, like no one understands, to the point of death, because he knew what was ahead of him. Drops of blood came from his pores when he prayed because of the intense stress on his body and soul. But he calmed and he quieted himself in that garden of Gethsemane. He said, "My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Then what did he do? He got up from prayer and he walked through that garden, and he knew who was coming after him, his betrayer with the mob behind him, and he calmly walked right to them. Who captured who? He didn't lift up himself. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. And on that cross, when he's pouring out his life and he is receiving the wrath of God for sin and for sinners, all the guilt and the shame and the things that we would die to get rid of, and he is there to die for it. And he calls out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." total control, all the way to the end, composed, calm. His soul was not uneven about a thing. His soul was calmed. Through a moment like that, he was focused on the Father's will. He was yielded. This psalm is so much more about the Son of David, the King Jesus, than it is about David himself. And this psalm is meant to lead us forward to consider the Son of David, who calls out today for you to come to him. You don't need to come to another text and go, David was good, I need to be good. No, you need to come to the Son of David and submit yourself to him and find the rest for your souls that is only in King Jesus. We're going to wrap up in a way this morning I think will be helpful for your soul. I'm going to give you a chance to calm and quiet your soul practically. As I pray, the band will come up and we'll sing one last song. And this song is written by Katharina von Schlegel in the 1700s, Be Still My Soul, a hymn that I feel will drive this point home further. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your word. We receive it as babes who come to you helpless. And we know that apart from you, we whine and we cry and we thrash about. We're scared, we can't see, don't feel the warmth. We're cold, we have so many needs, and we just cry out. But God, you hear our cry. And because of our union to Jesus Christ, you draw us close to you as we are considered adopted and yours. And you calm our souls. You bring us to you, and you tell us it will be okay. So God, I pray that we learn to humble ourselves before you, to have that hush over our souls in your presence that might give us true and lasting hope. In your name we pray.